Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to episode 3 of Clean Slate, a show here on Rebel Sports Network where we'll be discussing the weekly slate of NFL games. I'm your host, Gabriel Goddard. This week, I'm joined by Marcus Miles once again and your voice of the Rebels, Johnny Graves.
Thank you for having
Gentlemen, we have a very action-packed Week 7 slate ahead of us. Let's get right into it, starting with this upcoming Thursday night football game where the Steelers travel to face the Bengals. And on paper, you guys would think that the Steelers, this should be a lock for them, but Mike Tomlin is 0-6 on the road on Thursday night in his career. And also, the Bengals just picked up Joe Flacco. Steelers are 13-13 all time against one of their biggest rivals, Joe Flacco. What do you guys think is going to happen?
I mean, going to this game, Gabe, I think the Steelers have to be riding high and have to be excited about what they've seen from this offense. I think a lot of people had questions about how Perk Rogers is going to fit in with Arthur Smith and what they want to do in his zone read offensive scheme. But I think they've leaned on their stars when they needed to, and that's DK Metcalf. We've seen him pick up nice chunk gains through the air last week. He was doing a great job of being able to track the ball in and use his size, use his big frame to his advantage. And I think that's really what they need to do. They need to continue to lean on that. The Bengals, for the last couple of years, have never been known for their defense. They're always going to have a pretty suspect defense, and their only way they're kind of going to be able to stay in games is with that high-power offense. With Jamar Chase, with T. Higgins, now with the quarterback position, with Joe Burrow being out, you have Joe Flacco in there now in his second week. I'm not very high on that team. They have a lot of dysfunction. There's a lot of things that aren't going their way this season. And if you look at the Steelers and you think of Mike Tomlin, you're thinking of consistency. This team, they want to win football games. They know in the AFC North, when it comes down to it, they're going to need to win these games. These are still rivalry games. These are still matchups they're going to want to win for the AFC North to keep themselves at the top. They know the Ravens are waiting for Lamar to get back and have some of that momentum coming back. But I feel like winning this football game on the road, Thursday Night Football, I think this is going to be the tone setter for this team and potentially give them a little bit more energy heading off for the rest of the season.
That was a remarkable breakdown. You basically hit all of my points. For me, personally, I think the game comes down to, can that Bengals defense get any pressure on Rodgers? We know Rodgers is up there in age. He can't really move around. If they can make that pocket cloudy for him and really slow that offense down, that offense, Joe Flacco, he's stepped into a couple of situations and had some solid performances and led teams that should not have won games to win. So you never want to count them out, especially in a division game. You never know what's going to happen. So I would say if that Bengals defensive line has any action and they can get home and make Rodgers uncomfortable, they have a chance. Other than that, I don't see a plan.
Well, it was broke today that Trey Hendrickson is actually going to be out for the game.
Wow. I was just about to say his name. That's a deal breaker, for that team. And
so, we said, on paper, it should be a victory for the Steelers. I in my heart, it's also a victory for the Steelers. I am a Steelers fan. I hate these divisional rivalries that we have. Another divisional rivalry coming up this week that I'm really going to have my eyes on is going to be Commanders traveling down to Dallas to go face the Cowboys. Both teams last week, they're coming off of really embarrassing losses to teams they should have beat, and both losses were on game-winning field goals. Guys, how do you guys see this Commanders-Cowboys game shaking out?
You see me with my Eagles being on. Obviously, these are two teams in the NFC East that, if you're looking at these matchups, both of these teams are hungry for wins. You're coming both of these teams off a loss. The Cowboys against the Panthers, where they lost 30-27, and then also the Commanders just losing to the Bears when they lost 25-24. And I believe the Commanders are 3-3 now on the season, and then the Cowboys are 2-3-1.
If the Cowboys win this game, they
right.
overtake them.
And same thing, like we said with Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. Again, when you're playing these division matchups, especially for teams like this that are looking to be potentially in the wild card race, trying to get into the playoffs, these are matchups that you're going to want to win. We've already seen so far Dallas have dropped one against the Eagles in week 1 of the season, so that's a game that they're not going to be able to get back. Now you're playing potentially the number 2 team. You're trying to see who's really going to be the number 2 team in the NFC East. I think for both of these teams, for the Commanders, they've had a lot of injuries go to their wide receiver cores, and that's going to be the biggest thing for Jaden Daniels in this football game. You're going to see guys like Jalen Lane have to step up, continue to try to play well. I know Deebo Samuel had a heel injury that was kind of nagging at him a little bit in that Chicago Bears game, and you can see it. There's not as much explosion as you would want to see from this offense. And because of that, defenses have been able to change the way they've been able to scheme Jaden Daniels. They've been able to use a little bit more QB spy and limit his legs and what he's trying to do and forcing him to make plays with his arm. And when you have Luke McCaffrey, when you have Jalen Lane, and you don't have Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel playing at the level that you would want them to play, kind of limits what you can get from your offense. But if you're seeing what you've been seeing from this Dallas Cowboys defense, there's a lot of holes in this defense, and it starts with the secondary. It starts with Trayvon Diggs and Deron Bland. They're going to have to play a good game on the outside for Dallas to have a chance in this football game.
But on that flip side, talking about the Cowboys defense, the Cowboys offense is arguably the best offense in the league with a losing record. Dak Prescott is going out there and doing his job. And there's only one receiver in the league right now with 5 touchdowns and 5 receptions of 20-plus yards. And that man's name is George Pickens, my former Steeler. So, you're expecting them to go out there and continue this high-caliber passing offense, to go shred this subpar Commander secondary. And I think the Cowboys should be able to get this job done. They're 1.5-point underdogs on this game, and I think they pull off the upset.
See, it's crazy because I'm the Dallas fan, and I'm the one that's actually going to go opposite of you. I'm not very confident in this Cowboys team right now. I like your point about Trayvon Diggs and Deron Bland, but is Matt Eberflus even going to let them play their game? Like, against the Panthers, Bryce Young faced zone coverage on 85% of his dropbacks. He went 14 of 21 for 174 yards and a touchdown. That's unacceptable. Bryce Young is not a pro. He should not be dicing up your zone defense like that. And you have 2 man corners that you're paying about $150 million a year combined to, and you're playing zone for the majority of the game. Honestly, if that isn't solved, it doesn't, like we saw against the Panthers, it doesn't matter how many points you score. The Cowboys got stopped maybe once or twice all game and still lost the game because of how bad that defense is. And Jaden Daniels is a way better quarterback than Bryce Young, in my opinion. So I think no matter who is out there at receiver, they're going to have some success, and I don't see Dallas winning this game.
It's also notable Rico Dowdle did have 200 yards rushing in that game for the Panthers. So that's going to be another adjustment that this Cowboys defense is going to make. And I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his name. Kenny Clark. Is he still hurt, or is he going to be able to be in for this game?
He's playing, but he hasn't made much of an impact. He's been struggling out there.
Gotcha.
Guys, let's go ahead and jump over across the pond. The Rams and the Jags will be in London this week. And, it makes me laugh to think that they share the same record. Both teams are 4-2. But when you think historically about the Rams and the Jaguars, these teams are in 2 completely different leagues. The Rams just came off of an easy 17-3 victory over the hospitalized Baltimore Ravens. Before that, it was a loss, 26-23 to San Francisco. On the flip side, the Rams are the only team to beat that red-hot Indianapolis Colts team this year. The Jags are riding high right now. They've beat both San Francisco, Kansas City. They just lost to Seattle 20-12. But I really think they're going to fly over to London this week with a point to prove, with a chip on their shoulder. And, the Rams are only 2.5-point favorites. I don't know, guys. This one is really up in the air for me.
This one is definitely up in the air. And shout out to Liam Cohen, being able to come in, offensive coordinator for the Bucs. We've seen the success that Baker Mayfield has been able to have this year and last year as well in that offense. And all of that was due to the system that Liam Cohen was able to put into place when he was in Tampa Bay. Now moving over to the Jacksonville Jaguars and being the head coach for Trevor Lawrence, he's been able to settle Trevor Lawrence down and allow him to play efficient, smart football. And that's something that they've been needing for years now in Jacksonville. But the biggest part of this team so far has been their defense. We've seen Devin Lloyd be able, from that linebacker position, play a lot of the same roles that we've seen from Shaq Barrett and also from Levante David in that Tampa Bay system. And they've been doing a great job on the defensive end, being able to mess up offenses and put themselves in football games. Then you have Brian Thomas being able to get rid of a little bit of the yips that he had to start the year, starting to find his groove. On top of that, you still have Travis Hunter, who's been able to come in and play more on the offensive side and just show how athletic he is, show how much of a piece he's going to be for this team. But if you're looking at the Rams, they're going to be missing Puka Nacua. They're going to be counting on Devontae Adams to really show that he still can be a number 1 receiver in the NFL, and I believe that he can. But when you're missing a guy like Puka Nacua, who's come out on fire this year, he's had an incredible season thus far, but the name of the game for his career thus far has been injuries. And every single season so far in his career, he has missed multiple games. And that's going to be somebody that they're going to be missing in this football game. And somebody going into this. Jacksonville has been to London multiple times over these last couple of years. It hasn't been the same for the Rams. We got to see how they're going to adjust to being overseas, playing over the pond. But I believe it is going to be a good matchup between both of these 4-2 teams.
Absolutely. We have to see if Devontae Adams can reach that vintage form just for one game, you know?
Yeah.
You don't need him to do it the whole season, just be that number 2 for Puka, but this game he absolutely has to step up, you know? In overseas games, I look for the steadier coaching staff. I think McVay and them will definitely get that done. I think he's the most creative play caller in the league for sure. I feel like he's one of the most creative at getting the most out of guys that you wouldn't expect it from. Like, who expected Puka Nacua to be the best receiver in the league this season? Not, I mean, you could kind of see it from last season, but before last season, you did not expect that from him at all.
Right.
So I think you're going to see somebody that shouldn't step up, going to have a huge game for them, and I think they're going to sneak it out just in typical Rams fashion.
Yeah.
One of the last game that I want to highlight, guys, another divisional rivalry game, but this week the Raiders and the Chiefs are facing off in Arrowhead at Kansas City. This is the biggest mismatch according to Vegas odds of the week, with the Chiefs being 12.5-point favorites. You know, you look at the Raiders season so far. Geno Smith, first quarterback with double-digit interceptions, and we're only going to week 7. But if you think back to last year, the Raiders and the Chiefs gave us some of the most exciting football games to watch last year. And, you know, you can never count out division rivalries. Records go out the window with division rivalries. And so I'm looking for Ashton Genty to go and have a big game against this Chiefs defense that just got shut down. You know, there's questions about Chris Jones and his effort levels and things like that. You know, this needs to be a breakout game from our 6th-round pick here at home. And yeah, what do you guys think?
I mean, coming into this game, you know, looking at it, the Chiefs sitting at 3-3, the Raiders sitting at 2-4. If either one of these teams lose, if the Raiders lose, they'll be 2-5. If the Chiefs lose, they'll be 3-4. But going into this game, this is the first game with Rashee Rice, and that's going to be a weapon that they haven't been able to have so far this season. And Patrick Mahomes is going to love to be able to have not only Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice, Hollywood Brown, Travis Kelce. The band is all back together. But when you're looking at this team and you're looking at this matchup, Steve Spagnuolo is going to put pressure on Geno Smith. And with Geno Smith throwing 10 interceptions thus far in the season, that is going to be something that they're going to have to get and nip in the bud this week if you're Pete Carroll. You have to be able to take control of the football. You cannot put the football in harm's way. And if you're looking at this game, I believe Steve Spagnuolo is going to make sure that Geno Smith is uncomfortable. And what do you have to do to be able to break that? They have to use Ashton Genty. They have to figure out a way to give him the football, get him out in space, and keep the game low scoring. You don't want to get into a high scoring affair with this team. And we've seen in the last couple of years, like you said, Gabe, we've seen the Raiders be able to have the Chiefs' number over the last couple of years. They've been able to squeeze out some wins that you wouldn't otherwise have thought they were going to be able to get. But in a game like this, in Arrowhead with Rashee Rice back, I do definitely have the Chiefs winning this football game, trying to be 4-3, trying to stay on track with the Chargers, who have been red hot, had some little bumps so far in the season, losing to the Giants, and then having, you know, some other games that they lost as well. But I do think the Chiefs are going to stick this one out, and I expect Rashee Rice to still have a big piece of the pie in this game.
Absolutely. And while the Chiefs are gaining guys, it's looking like the Raiders are losing guys. Today, Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers both didn't participate in practice, so it's looking like they won't be out there. If you're looking to play the time control possession game that you need to play to beat this Chiefs team, it's going to be hard to do that without Bowers. You know, he's that quick outlet, especially against a Spagnuolo-led defense who loves to blitz. You kind of need a steady presence like Bowers. You know, you can hope Michael Mayer steps up, but I just don't see the Raiders having enough. I think it's too much on Ashton Genty's plate. I think Geno has been too careless with the ball, and Spagnuolo is going to get him.
I lied, guys. I do have one more game to go over. And it's two teams that are some of the hottest teams in the league right now. The Colts are going down to L.A. to face the Chargers, where the Chargers are 1.5-point favorites. These are two of the 4 teams in the league right now currently on a 3-game win streak. And they both just narrowly escaped with their victories last week, beating 2 of the worst teams in the league. You know, the Chargers beat the Dolphins 29-27, and the Colts beat the Cardinals 31-27. And so you go out and you play these bottom tier teams like this, and you keep the score that close. But when you go, this is powerhouse versus powerhouse now. I really wonder what's going to happen with this game. I expect a low-scoring affair. I want to know what you guys think.
I think coming into this football game, I think if you're looking at the Colts and the Chargers both sitting here, you have the Colts at 5-1, leading that AFC South. They're pushing themselves ahead of the Houston Texans, and the Jacksonville Jaguars are right behind them. But going into this game, these are primetime matchups, and we're going to really see if Danny Dimes has what it takes to continue to be the guy that he's been able to be for this franchise. We know Anthony Richardson is out, so his backup is now going to be Riley Leonard. But in this football game, we know that for the Colts, the bread and butter for their success this season has been Jonathan Taylor. He has been absolutely phenomenal, not just on the football field, but in fantasy as well. He's been the guy. He's been the go-to back so far, and they're going to need to use him very efficiently in this football game. If you are the Chargers in this football game, Justin Herbert in this passing offense is going to be a key to this game. You have Charvarius Ward, a guy that just had a concussion. I don't know if he's still going through concussion protocol. And now you had Ladd McConkey coming off his best game so far of the season when he was able to play against the Dolphins and have what a performance that he was able to have. But you have guys like Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnston, who came off in the season on a very hot start. You're going to look at guys like that, Slayer as well, Keenan Allen. Those are going to be some of the matchups that I'm looking for. That wide receiver core against this Colts secondary. You have Cam Bynum. You also have Kenny Moore out of that nickelback position. You know, those are going to be some of the matchups that I'm seeing from this team. But I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair. I do think both of these teams are going to have to score points if they're going to want to win. I think it's just going to be on who is going to make mistakes first. I think if you're looking at the track record for these quarterbacks, Justin Herbert has been a more efficient, has been a more consistent quarterback than Daniel Jones. I think this Chargers defense is going to try to move Derwin James around and try to give them different looks and try to see if they can make him uncomfortable. In this football game, though, I think at home in LA, I have the Chargers pulling out this one.
Personally, I think I have the Colts. I see every point that you're making. This was easily the closest game to pick. I went back and forth multiple times. But for me, I just look at the loss of Amari and Hampton. And I understand Vidal had a great game last game, but you kind of need a run game against a defense like the Colts.
Yes.
And while Jonathan Taylor is on the other side, they just lost their key running back. I think that's going to be a huge loss, and I think it puts a little bit too much on Herbert's plate considering the talent level of that Colts defense. So I do think I have the Colts pulling it out.
Well, guys, we had a great conversation today. I'm excited to watch all these upcoming matchups this Sunday. Absolutely. And be sure to tune in next Saturday for the next episode of Clean Slate. Once again, I'm Gabriel Goddard, joined by Marcus Miles and Johnny Graves. See you guys next week.